After graduating West Point, he completed 38 years of service, serving as the Army's Chief of Staff from 1999 to 2003. The General got nominated to be the 7th Secretary of Veterans Affairs on January 21st, 2009. And as a Vietnam veteran himself, he fully understands who and what we are. But if there was one singular moment in his service as Secretary, it was clearly the point when the IOM came out with the 3 new diseases, Parkinson's, this leukemia, and of course the biggie, ischemic heart condition. He didn't blink. Despite fierce opposition, as service reps, for those of us who've been out in the vineyards working with people filing claims, we know how difficult PTS claims can be when you don't have that automatic stressor. And when this secretary came down, he said, we're going to change that rule. And understand that if you're in a war zone and you're getting shot at and you're getting blown up, it doesn't matter whether you're a truck driver, a cook, or anybody else. You're in a war zone, you're in a war, it's got stress. And if you can get a diagnosis and you have that service, you're going to get connected. It is my pleasure indeed to welcome Secretary Eric K. Shinseki to us, and his brothers in VVA.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for that very, very generous and warm welcome. And John, thanks for that more than kind introduction. It's welcome home, everybody. It's great to be with you. And John, thanks for your great leadership here at VVA. Let me begin by greeting Medal of Honor recipient Buddy Buca. I know he's not well known to you, and Buddy and I have known each other for 50 years now, so we were kids when we first met, even before Vietnam. But I'll tell you from his earliest days, Buddy's skills, even amongst the group that we operated with, as a leader and just instincts for what was right and willingness to stand up for it, outmatched everybody else's. And so I've known him a long time, and take my hat off to him, Buddy. It's great to see you again, as always. Good to see you. Senator Dean Hiller, I think, was going to be here, may be here. I was with him yesterday in Las Vegas, and thanks again for being here with these veterans, my brethren, Senator, and thanks for stepping out and recognizing our veterans as you go about your business. Other members of VVA's leadership team, Jack Devine, your Vice President, Rick Weidman, your Director of Government Operations, Nancy Switzer, your President of AVVA. Special greetings to Ken Fisher, who I just had a chance to say hello to here on the way up. As you know, he chairs the Fisher House Foundation. To this point, the Fisher House Foundation has provided 18 houses for VA hospitals. There are 2 more that are going to open up next month. And there's already 1 in planning, and he and I are working on the next set. And so for the long term, a relationship between VA and the Fisher House Foundation is terrific for VA, but even better, it's wonderful for veterans, because you and your families will have those facilities, landmark, world-class facilities whenever you come to VA for treatment. So Ken, thanks for what you do for all of us. And I look forward to the next opening. I think next month is Washington, D.C., someplace, right? Fellow Vietnam veterans, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be addressing you at this 15th National Convention, and as I saw the sign driving into town, the biggest little city in the world. I don't think they've been to Kauai, Hawaii, where I grew up. I got one that can match them. But let me tell you, holding your conference in places like this are pretty important. Because we are involved in so many VSO conferences, and because I hold some of my own, I know what impact you have when you gather in a place like this. And it's about jobs, much needed jobs, a shot in the arm at a time when the whole country is having a tough time. So I tell you that the people of Reno are benefiting from your conference here, and I congratulate you on doing that. And let me just add that VA joins you in this effort. As you know, there is an infrastructure that goes with VA, and here in Nevada, that includes 2 medical centers, 10 community-based outpatient clinics, 6 vet centers, and a regional office. We will also open a new VA medical center in Las Vegas next year. That's a $600 million construction project. It'll generate an estimated $1.2 billion in economic impact over the following 5 years. Right now, there are 730 hard hat jobs on the construction site, many of them veterans. I got to meet them when I went to visit. Average salary of about $85,000. And when the construction phase is over, when that medical center opens its doors, 1,850 permanent medical jobs, 450 new ones, an average salary of about $108,000, which includes benefits, is going to be there in that hospital providing work to people in and around Las Vegas. And more importantly, with our effort to hire veterans as a first choice, good opportunity for veterans to find employment there as well. VA spends about $1.3 billion a year in Nevada every year, providing care and benefits to many of the state's 244,000 veterans. And we add about 2,700 jobs statewide. Additionally, VA recently awarded 7 of our 15 major T4 information technology contracts to service-disabled, veteran-owned, or veteran-owned small businesses, both categories. 7 of 15 to those 2 categories, veteran-owned small businesses. And in addition to that, we're requiring all 15 awardees that they have to meet our aggressive subcontracting goals for service-disabled and veteran-owned small businesses as part of their team. So 7 reserved for veteran-owned small businesses. The other 8, whoever they go to, all 15 of them have requirements to hire service-disabled or veteran-owned small businesses. The reason we press on this is historically, thank you. The reason we press on this is because historically, when we look at the record, veterans hire veterans. They know veterans, they're comfortable with veterans, they know how to talk to veterans. And so the record is that veterans hire veterans. So in boosting the number of veteran-owned small businesses, we're also looking to increase churn in the job market, increase jobs for veterans. Incidentally, inside VA, 30% of our own workforce are veterans. That's over 100,000 people. Veterans, and our goal is to take that 30% and move it up to 40%, and that's underway. I personally am thankful to President Obama for giving me this opportunity to serve all of you, serve veterans. You don't get many do-overs in life. And for me, this is a do-over. I get to care for folks like you with whom I went to war 40 years ago in Vietnam. I get to care for the youngsters I sent to war as a serving chief of staff. And I get to care for those who saved the world during World War II and those who marched with guns in Korea in 1950. Like all of you, I grew up in Vietnam. My experiences there and what I learned about myself, the friends I made who remain friends today, have become central to my life. We all went to war with a generation of patriots who, like Infantry Captain Rocky Versace, some of you know Rocky, were equally tough, determined, and just as capable of unbelievable acts of courage and sacrifice as any other generation of veterans that have gone to war for this country. Rocky Versace distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism from October 1963 to September 1965. Not just once, but multiple repeated acts of heroism during captivity for those 2 years. Severely wounded during an attack by a heavily armed enemy battalion, Captain Versace fought until he ran out of ammunition and was taken captive. For 2 years, he continued to resist his Viet Cong captors, assuming command of his fellow prisoners, rallying their support for one another, building a team, defying and scorning the enemy's brutal mistreatment of him and them, making 3 unsuccessful escape attempts and then absorbing even greater punishment after the fact. And something tells me he knew that that was going to happen when he initiated those attempts. Finally, unable to break his indomitable will, his faith in God and his trust in the United States of America, his captors executed him on 26 September 1965. The last time his fellow prisoners heard him, Rocky Versace was singing God Bless America at the top of his voice to rally his fellow prisoners and strengthen their resolve in resisting the enemy's efforts to break their spirits. To the very end, Rocky led and served his fellow prisoners. For extraordinary heroism, Rocky Versace was awarded the Medal of Honor. Rocky Versace didn't come home, but we honor the fallen by how we care for those who did come home, and that's the mission of VA. So welcome home to everyone in the room. For the past 2.5 years, President Obama and I, and all of us in VA, have rededicated ourselves to those who serve the nation in peace and war and to set right some of the things that have been languishing for 40 years. Now, these are tough economic times, especially for veterans. As of June this year, 1 million veterans remain unemployed. And the jobless rate for post 9/11 veterans is 13.3%. The highest of any of our generations. And as troops return from Iraq and Afghanistan, an additional 1 million service members are projected to leave the military between 2011 and 2016, over the next 5 years. So this week in New Orleans, VA is conducting for the first time our National Veteran-Owned Small Business Conference. We are providing both veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses an unprecedented opportunity to build capacity, grow their businesses, and connect directly with VA's procurement decision makers. Over 4,300 people are in attendance. I spoke to them several days ago. Roughly 1,600 of them are veteran-owned small businessmen. They are learning a lot, and we're hiring on site as well, we VA. 2 weeks ago, President Obama again demonstrated both his unwavering support of veterans and his concerns about their employment opportunities by announcing some bold new initiatives to try to get veterans back to work. First, a returning heroes tax credit for any firm that hires unemployed veterans, a maximum of $2,400 for every short-term unemployed hire, $4,800 for every long-term hire. Also, the existing Wounded Warriors tax credit for all veterans with service-connected disabilities will continue, with an increase for firms that hire veterans with service-connected disabilities who are long-term unemployed. A max credit of $9,600 per veteran. And I'll tell you that this was a subject of much discussion this week at the Small Business Conference in New Orleans. This gives small business owners an opportunity to think about hiring veterans. So it's a good shot for all of us. Second, DOD and VA will work with other federal departments and the President's economic and domestic policy teams to ensure that every member departing the military service is trained, educated, and credentialed to successfully enter the civilian workforce or pursue higher education. To my mind, if we can dedicate 9 weeks getting a youngster through boot camp and ready to join an operational unit, potentially deploy for combat, we should be able to find the requisite time to conduct a quality transition program that assures their success when they return home looking for work or going to school. And finally, the President challenged the private sector to hire or train 100,000 unemployed veterans or their spouses by the end of 2013. 2.5 years ago, President Obama handed me just 2 priorities when he asked me to serve in this capacity. And they're pretty simple, pretty straightforward from him. Actually, he had pretty good understanding of VA from his time as sitting on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. So just 2 priorities. Make things better for veterans, and so the immediate, and then transform the Department of Veterans Affairs so it better serves veterans throughout the 21st century. And that's the longer term look. Figure out what's not going well in the department and go do something about it. Some pretty straightforward strategic guidance. He didn't tell me what, when, or how. He told me to go figure it out. Okay, that's why it's strategic, you know. It takes a tactical guy like me to go figure out what that means. Well, as you all know, I didn't grow up in VA, and I'm not a clinician, I'm not a physician or a nurse. So I had a lot of learning to do that first year. I listened a lot to VSOs, to veterans, to other stakeholders, a lot of learning. You even watched me struggle a bit implementing the new post-9/11 GI Bill, and we did it without any automation tools for a massive new program. The law directed VA to implement it on the fly, and so we did. Everything had to be done by stubby pencil. I had no one in the education sections who had a weekend off, had a Christmas holiday that year. Stubby pencil. But we put every youngster who wanted to attend college that fall, 173,000 of them, into school the hard way. And at the same time, we fast-tracked development of those missing IT tools that VBA and we've always needed. They have since arrived and are in operation today administering that very same program. And today we have over 518,000 veterans and family members in school under post-9/11 GI Bill. And when you add to the post-9/11 GI Bill the other educational assistance programs we have, Montgomery GI Bill, Voc Rehab, the number of veteran students, family member and veteran students exceeds 840,000. So this is a good deal for us. Now this fall we're going to expand the GI Bill program to provide vocational training and other non-degree job opportunities for veterans who want to work but aren't necessarily interested in sitting in a college classroom for 4 years. So this will be a massive expansion to the program, and it'll serve a much broader population of veterans. So this is going to be also helpful. I learned a few things from implementing the new GI Bill. First, I'll tell you, VA is tough. I asked those kids to work the schedules that we gave them, 3 shifts around the clock, weekends, nobody complained, and they got the work done. They're tough. They're agile enough to implement a new program on the fly, and even as doing so, it is also innovative enough to simultaneously develop that new IT, information technology, automation tool I described, to better administer that program over the long haul, so we can see this thing spike in momentum. Well, that told me that good, dedicated, creative, and reliable people come to work every day at VA, people I could count on. So my job is to unleash their initiative. Get them all in the game, all in. Everybody contributing, nobody sitting on the sidelines with their arms folded across their chest. This is a team activity here at VA. Unleash their initiative, grow and develop their leadership skills that provide them the right tools to get the job done, tools that have been sorely lacking for a long time now, and we're doing something about it. So now, besides strategic guidance, the President also provided his personal support and leadership. Time and again in the budgeting process, when this could have gone left or right and we were arguing right, you'll see that the budget went right. It sided with veterans, it sided with the VA's position, and the President himself did that. He provided those much-needed scarce resources, but just as importantly, he allowed this secretary the freedom to make decisions and act. I've been in lots of organizations where you have authority after you check, right? This one doesn't work that way. I have the authority to act, and you'll see, we've done some things. Well, 2.5 years ago, I said I was brand new to VA, didn't know much about it. And so I walked around, and here's some of the things veterans told me and asked me to go to work on. Some of it was pretty direct, as you know, you guys can be. You know, as they say, as long as you could serve, at the end of it, you can get away with anything. Well, too many veterans, I was told, too many veterans couldn't access VA services and benefits, and when they tried, they found the system almost impossible to navigate, creating a massive backlog and disability claims. In fact, some veterans suggested that VA was waiting for them to die so we wouldn't have to pay them their benefits. Pretty strong stuff for a new secretary to hear. Okay, I got it. So I asked folks to give me a chance to try to fix this backlog that had been years in the making. I just needed a little time to make a plan and opportunity to go argue for resources which have never been there. Veterans also told me it was wrong for any veteran in this country to be homeless, and I agreed. In fact, the President was ahead of us on all this. He had already decided this was immoral, and we were going to do something about it. Some of you also told me that VA had an attitude problem, that we didn't always treat veterans with dignity and respect, and that women veterans in particular were not being well served. Our system was heavily male-oriented, and women veterans didn't feel comfortable or welcome. So again, okay, we need to do something about both these perceptions. One, about dignity and respect, and the other, about making women veterans feel equally comfortable. Finally, you felt we were... Finally, you felt we were too slow to react to real changes in veterans' lives. An example might be the impact of rising gas prices or the cost of medications on veterans' pocketbooks. Well, 3.5 years ago, the beneficial travel rate was 11 cents per mile. Today, it's 41.5 cents per mile. And when I ask my people to run the numbers on it, I'm told it covers expenses, plus some. And we have spent the last 1.5 years controlling copay costs from medications to the benefit of all veterans, and I hope you've all seen that. So based on what you told me and other things I learned that first year, we crafted our budget proposals to address these concerns among a number of others. In response and with congressional support, President Obama increased VA's budget in 2010 to $115 billion, a 16% increase over the budget I inherited, the 2009 budget, $99.8 billion, which was enhanced by the Congress, by the way. This year, the 2011 budget grew to $126.6 billion. The President's 2012 budget request currently before the Congress is for $132.2 billion. Very few organizations, public or private, military, non-military, profit, non-profit, have had this kind of resourcing support over the past recent 3 budget cycles. And every bit of it has been needed to fix long-standing issues in this department. Long-standing issues you all know. like the effects of Agent Orange on Vietnam veterans, Gulf War syndrome on those who fought in Desert Storm, and verifiable PTSD for anyone, as John Rowan said, anyone who's ever served in combat. Well, thanks to the President, we have clear direction, predictability in resourcing, and unwavering support. And now it's up to us. Veterans remain a very high priority with this President. I know that personally, and I can tell you it goes deep with him. That commitment will be reflected in the care and benefits VA continues to provide the men and women who have safeguarded this nation. The President's budgets have kept faith with veterans and enabled VA to address those early concerns that I outlined for you, the ones you asked me to take on when I arrived. Let me just go back and tick off a couple of them. Access. To your concerns from 2009 that not enough veterans could access VA's benefits and services, we have aggressively outreached to veterans who did not know about VA or didn't know that they had earned benefits. And in both those cases, that's my problem. I need to do a better job in outreach and educating people, but I'm still surprised today that there are folks who've never heard of VA. So we have an outreach program underway. Or a third category had lost faith in us some time ago. Veterans enrolled for VA health care in the last 2.5 years has increased by 800,000, a 10% uptick. So we're going to continue to outreach. We're going to continue to broaden our appeal to women veterans. And to those that tried us some time ago, lost faith in us, my message is we're different VA today. Give us another shot. I think you won't be disappointed. Now, with women's program coordinators at each major medical center, with over 1,200 providers trained in advanced women's health care, and with a National Women's Summit giving women veterans their own larger voice, we believe we're doing the right things now to anticipate the coming surge in women veterans. Homelessness. 2009, you told me no veteran should live homeless in this rich and powerful country. Since 2008, VA has helped permanently house over 29,000 homeless veterans and families, and another 30,000 have been assisted through the homeless call center. We intend to reduce the number of homeless veterans to below 60,000 by June 2012, less than a year away, with the goal of ending this national embarrassment in 2015. What we have learned in the last 2.5 years is that we cannot end veterans' homelessness through street rescues alone. When I say homeless, the image that comes to most people's minds is an individual wrapped in blankets and heavy clothing, sleeping on a grate or someplace. And that's true. That is the most visible aspect of homelessness. But it isn't the total definition of the issue. We must develop robust prevention initiatives that protect an at-risk population that is difficult to find and see. But we know that this at-risk population exists because veterans continue to lead the nation in homelessness, depression, substance abuse, suicidal ideation, and we're well up there in joblessness as well. So unless we're doing a full court press in all of these areas, merely doing street rescues is only handling one piece of the problem. We need to do prevention. In fact, prevention in the long term will become the more important effort, but we have to do both. So VA is leading the fight against homelessness with all of our capabilities that we have, which are substantial. Primary medical and dental care, mental health, substance abuse treatment, education, case management, housing, jobs counseling. Wherever we have an asset, nothing's sitting in reserve someplace waiting for, a problem. We're putting as much as we can against homelessness. Street rescues will and must continue, but as I said, they never have defined the entire problem. We are outreaching to states and communities to collaborate at the local level with nonprofit organizations. Our partners, 400 to 500 of them, who know the homeless situation firsthand, and these are the folks I call the creative geniuses when it comes to dealing with the homeless. They've been doing it on a shoestring for years, and now we're trying to help with our resources. We're also conducting justice outreach to support the creation of veterans courts, which would remand veterans, those facing minor charges of petty crimes and repeated substance abuse offenses, DWIs, the kinds of things that if you do often enough, you're going to end up behind bars. But to remand them to VA for treatment in lieu of incarceration. I promised every judge who has asked me about this, where we have veterans courts. 2.5 years ago, we probably had 4 to 5 veterans courts in the nation. Today, we're around 80, and they continue to grow. I continue to get requests from judges to help them establish veterans courts. So this thing will continue to grow, and I assure every judge, if you set up a veterans court for our veterans, 2 things. A VA hospital will be your partner in providing the treatment and services that you require, and our kids will graduate from your program. So lots of interest in the part of judges. We're also working with state and federal prisons to afford veterans being released from prison an opportunity to break their cycle of incarceration, homelessness, incarceration, to intervene here and give them an opportunity to get into treatment with us as they leave the prisons. There are 1,310 prisons, state and federal prisons in this country. We're currently into 950 of them, and we continue to expand this program. So we are committed to ending veterans homelessness. We are committed to ending veterans homelessness by 2015, and we are after it. Claims backlog. You asked me to fix the backlog in disability claims, and I've committed to ending it in 2015 by putting in place a system that processes all claims within 125 days at a 98% accuracy level. Not an average of 125 days, no more than 125 days. Of the things you asked me to take on, this one's taking a little longer to achieve momentum, but we have a host of good options, promising options being piloted today, and we expect them to begin paying off in 2012 as we begin to fully automate the disability claims process. I mentioned automating the new GI Bill program, and it's our experience of what we learned going through that, putting that program in place on the fly, that gives us a measure of confidence that we'll soon have automation tools needed to begin meeting this backlog in the short term. So more to come next year. Attitude. 2 years ago, you told me that some in VA had an attitude problem, and so since last December, with input and recommendations from a variety of panels, work groups, stakeholders, internal and external to VA, senior leaders in VA, we've settled on 5 of what we call our core values that underscore the moral obligation we all, I believe, and we all believe, moral obligations inherent in the VA mission. And the 5 core values are these, 5 simple words, but they end up being promises. Integrity, commitment, advocacy, respect, and excellence. 5 words. Integrity, commitment, advocacy, respect, and excellence. When you take the first letter of each word, it just happens to spell, I care. Now, I know some in the audience would say, well, is this a marketing technique? No. You can't go through 10 iterations with the work groups that we had, and most of those work group sessions very, very emotional. We weren't going to put 100 core values on us. We're going to get it to less than 7. We ended up with 5. And these 5 came out of the work groups. And yes, when they lined up, some creative person was able to say, if you line them up in this order, it might have symbolic meaning for us. So yes, that aspect is true. But the 5 values stand on their own. We didn't start with I care and try to regress to, some set of values. Integrity. And here's how I care works. Integrity. Because I care, I will act with high moral principle, adhere to the highest professional standards, and maintain the trust and confidence of all with whom I engage. Commitment. Because I care, I will work diligently to serve veterans and other beneficiaries be driven by an earnest belief in VA's mission, and fulfill my individual and organizational responsibilities. Advocacy. Because I care, I will be truly veteran-centric by identifying, fully considering, and appropriately advancing the interests of veterans and other beneficiaries. Respect. Because I care, I will treat all those I serve and with whom I work with dignity, showing respect to earn respect. And finally, excellence. Because I care, I will strive for the highest quality and continuous improvement, be thoughtful and decisive in leadership, be accountable for my actions, be willing to admit mistakes, and rigorous in correcting them. These are words. They don't mean anything until you educate everyone in the organization why these are important, and these are promises, and that's why they're stated this way. This is an individual commitment on the part of every employee in VA, and we're in the process of that education program right now. And this is not a one-week deal or one-month deal or this year's priority. Training on our values will be routinely done, periodically reinforced by leadership, and every new employee of VA will go through this aspect of training of why these values are where they are, how we got here, and why they have to live up to the promises. So you have my assurance that these promises, and I use that word specifically, promises, VA is embraced with serious dispatch. With 2 operational campaigns still underway and continuing economic challenges here at home, VA's mission is clear and compelling. We in VA must be more demanding on ourselves to get every penny out of every dollar invested on behalf of veterans. And I'm not comfortable that we're there yet. I continue to press, make sure that we're being efficient and effective with the resources, tremendous resources we've gotten from the President and the Congress. My responsibility is to make sure we get a return on that investment, and that review on my part continues. But I'll tell you, when the last combatant comes home from Iraq and Afghanistan in a few years, as will happen, DoD's missions may be over, but VA's requirements will still be growing, something that is likely to continue for another decade or more beyond that point when the last combatant comes home. We know it from our experience. VA knows it historically after each conflict, and we are committing to be vigilant, not to create another Vietnam generation whose unaddressed medical needs continue to challenge its members even today. So that's our responsibility. But just as an aside, I'll just give you a sense of how long history is in VA. Today, we still have 2 children of Civil War veterans on our beneficiary rolls. Okay? 2 children. I check occasionally to make sure they're still here with us, that they are. The promises of Abraham Lincoln are being delivered by President Barack Obama. And 100 years from now, the promises of this president and the current serving members of the Congress will be delivered by a future president and a Secretary of Veterans Affairs not yet born. But VA will be here to deliver those promises. So with your help and support, we've had more than 2 good years for veterans. There's still much more to be done. You can tell me that, but you'll be preaching to the choir here, running through the open door. I understand that. We have momentum in key areas, clear directions for the future. We will not fail to honor the dedication and selflessness of men and women we serve. We're not perfect. We're trying to get to excellence. Men and women like, and I picked one example here, a warrior named Joe Kapacheski. He's an Army Ranger who was severely wounded in Iraq by an Iraqi grenade, shattered his right leg, extensively damaged the right side of his body, severing a nerve and an artery in his right arm. Doctors feared he would never walk again, let alone fulfill Joe's wish to return to the Ranger Regiment and become a squad leader. Then again, most of us don't fully appreciate iron will. In Sergeant Kapachewski's words, I don't like people telling me I can't do something. Kapachewski had been serving with the Rangers since May 2002. When he was wounded in 2005, 3 years later, he was on his 5th combat deployment. After multiple surgeries, slowly regaining the use of his right arm, enduring unimaginable pain in the right leg, he made the call, courageous call, to have his right leg amputated below the knee, opting for greater mobility and faster recovery with a prosthetic leg. In March 2007, the leg was removed. 5 months later, he was running. After 6 months, he rejoined the Ranger Operations Company at Fort Benning. That's the transition unit before you get into the operational regiment. If you want to get back in, you have to go through this transition. 10 months after surgery, Kapachewski completed an Army PT test, a 5-mile run and a 12-mile road march with 40 pounds of gear. March 2008, 1 year after surgery, he became the only amputee ever to assume combat duties in the Ranger Regiment as a squad leader. He has since deployed 4 more times. He's been promoted to platoon sergeant. He's received the Bronze Star with V device for helping save a severely wounded comrade. Joe Kapachewski is a member of the 9/11 generation. More than 5 million Americans have served in the military during the past decade. 3 million of them joined after 9/11, knowing full well that they would be going to combat. Their accomplishments are extraordinary. You've all tracked what they've done, unseating the Taliban, pushing Al-Qaeda from their sanctuaries, capturing Saddam Hussein, delivering justice to Osama bin Laden, and continuing the training of Iraqi and Afghan forces so they can defend their own countries. The 9/11 generation includes more than 1 million spouses and 2 million children, many of them who have lived their entire lives in a nation at war. More military women have served in combat than ever before. Hundreds of thousands of troops have deployed multiple times. They've all borne a heavy burden on behalf of the nation. But despite the enormous strains of 10 years of continuous operations, our very small volunteer force continues to be as strong as it's ever been, and I speak as someone who sat in positions that would look at this. Sergeant Joe Kapachewski's 9/11 generation is defined just as Rocky Versace's Vietnam generation and every previous generation of America's veterans have been defined by the virtues of selfless service, by sacrifice, by devotion to duty. These men and women who serve and have served our nation are the flesh and blood of American exceptionalism. That's a term that gets thrown around a lot. I tell you, this is my definition of it: the living, breathing embodiment of our national values and our special place in the world. It is the men and women who serve and the men and women who have served, like all of you in this room. God bless our men and women in uniform. God bless our veterans. Welcome home, VBA, and may God continue to bless this great country of ours. Thank you all very much.
This year we've chosen General Shinseki, Minority Affairs Committee Diversity Award, General Eric K. Shinseki, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, for your relentless efforts to achieve justice for our nation's veterans. August 18, 2011. We do have the right date on that. We had the wrong date for Colin Powell last year.